you're thinking about independence like when you were taught about independence in primary school. I'm telling you, as if it was a good thing, as if it was a wonderful thing that we achieved. You understand me? As if it was a good thing or a wonderful thing that we achieved. Independence wasn't wonderful. Independence was gotten by blood. Women had to go naked in Aba because of independence, because they wanted independence. People were raped, people were killed because they wanted independence. Are you understanding me? Independence was clear occupation. And yes, independence was clear occupation. But the thing there is that you should understand that the game changed as this woman came in. The model changed. So they had to now leave others.
She personally was able to dissociate and break down the royal family from colonialism. However, the only area which I think she could have done much more would be in the area of restitution, repatriation. That's the area where something could have been done or initiated. But when you start doing restitution, what you are saying, in other words, is I have done really, really bad, which she needed to be careful as well on how she portrays the restitution. That restitution is that part that was not fully done. However, you need to know that some things that were stolen back then have been returned to many nations. We stole them from many nations.
I want us to understand it was a different game. The game was shifting. The game was moving from occupation to something else. The French also got tune of that style because the colonizers were discussing, and they said, come, it's easy for us. Let them, if they want independence, let them have a sense, in quote, of independence. But we still control the resources. We install those who are in charge, and they are our puppets and they do our bidding. So now the thing there is that, the model changed. You understand me? The style of colonization changed to something better and more profitable for them. And that's just it. Give these people the republics that they need. They have a central bank. We control the central bank. We send our companies to do business, and then we rip off the country. That's what we do. And all the money goes where? To these other countries. Simple. Very, very effective, and it's still working today.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Lost Lagosians, a podcast covering topics that are about Africans in and out of Africa, as well as trending topics and challenges facing Africans inside and out of Africa. I'm your host, Brother Mike. Today we discuss the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, as well as the ramifications, the positives and the negatives, and the pluses and minuses of her reign, especially as it comes to an end. And as you guys all know, on September the 8th, she did pass on, and there's been a lot of reactions from people inside Africa and those out of Africa, as well as the world in general. So we kind of talk about that today. I have some of my friends who are here just to talk about that, and just to kind of see what the reaction is. Some people have good feelings about what the Queen has achieved as well as what she's done. And there are other people who are actually a little bit think it's a bittersweet regarding her passing. So we kind of delve into that. Please don't forget to leave us a review on Apple if you are listening to this episode and you getting some value in it. We really appreciate if you can just leave us a review. It goes a long way. It helps, and it also helps other people find our content. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the show. Oh, by the way, I also want to just make sure that the opinions shared during this episode are the opinions of the guests. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, as always. So do your research, verify all the facts, and just fact check what we discuss today. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the show. Hello guys, welcome to another conversation with us here, Lost Lagosians. Thank you guys for being here, as always. So just breaking news. So some of you probably already know, Queen Elizabeth II passed away on September 8th, 2022. Our condolences to our friends out in the UK. This is a very sad moment for folks in the UK, as well as around the world, because the Queen has actually done a lot of good for the world, for our world as we know it. She's also seen as a source of stability and a force of calm, especially for the British monarchy, and as well as the parliamentary system there over there in the UK. But I have with me some of our friends here, and we're talking about this earlier. And we just figured, well, why not have the conversation and share some of our thoughts and insights on that. So for me, just to start it off, I think that it's a bittersweet. There's a plus or minus to it, in the sense that while those in the UK, they've really, really enjoyed the Queen being present there as a force of stability. For those of us that are Africans, some of us have good vibes about it and some have bad vibes. For example, what comes to mind for me particularly is like with the colonialism of the British. Nigeria got its independence in 1960, October 1st, 1960 from the British. So in a way, before then, this was a brutal, some people would argue, and a forceful control by the British government. And it's not just Nigeria, other parts of the world as well have seen this kind of situation whereby the Brits, slavery, they forcefully took over, dominated, and even to an extent, the British actually forced their colonies to pay them, which is part of why some people say some of their wealth came from other people working for them and sending the money over. So recently there's been talks in Australia about leaving the Commonwealth. I think it's Ireland recently also had a referendum as well. So what does this mean for the world? What does this mean going forward? And for us that are Africans, what is our take on this? So with that, I want to open it for thoughts and suggestions. Personally, I think it's a bittersweet thing. So I don't know, what do you guys think?
I can go first. I think it's for me. I'm quite indifferent really. It's not bitter. It's not sweet. And yeah, like I know there are people who think that the Queen is personally responsible for all the different, crimes and, atrocities committed by the empire, back in the day and stuff. But I don't hold her personally responsible. I feel like she definitely has done a lot of good things in a lifetime, like as far as I remember anyway, since I was born. And yeah, there are far more evil people today that we can turn our grievances to, so that's my own take on that. But I know lots of people have like different opinions, and I think everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah, thank you. What comes to mind for me is with Meghan Markle and how she gave Oprah an interview saying that there was racism in the parliament, in the monarchy, whatever, and that the Queen knew of it. So is that something that the Queen could have controlled or done better? Because that was a bad PR. I don't want to go into you made a comment about, she wasn't responsible for all that, of course, because when she came in power.
I personally wouldn't divert towards Marco's scenario and the interview. On broadly speaking, since she ascended the throne, technically she has kind of been dismantling and dissociating the throne from colonialism. If you look at all the things that have happened over the years and how things have progressed, let's start with independence of countries. She got to the throne in 1956, and within 4 years, several African countries got independence. That in itself tells us that she was more open to people being independent and countries running themselves, in as much as her forefathers and her parents and our ancestors have actually been dominating on other nations, which, to be quite very fair, those were bad times. You cannot forcefully subject people against their wish because you are stronger economically and politically and militarily. But however, we also need to know that this is how the world ran back in those days. I mean, if you want to run back through all this period, you need to visit the Roman Empire. You need to visit how Rome, how Greece with Alexander the Great conquered several nations, especially the Roman Empire. Keeping in mind that today we have Roman Catholics, and that's because Rome wanted to find a way to seep into Christianity. So they came up with Roman Catholicism, and they came up with all of these things. And all this all pertains to the idea and the agenda of trying to rule over other men. So we really can't, because we didn't live in those days, and that was what entailed in those days. I think that was a norm to actually expand the empire, which in reality was bad for humanity. I mean, today we're talking about various means of still dominating over others. We still have that today, economically and politically as well. We have that today. But in my own view, she personally was able to dissociate and break down the royal family from colonialism. However, the only area which I think she could have done much more would be in the area of restitution.
Restitution. That's a big word.
Yeah, that's the area where something could have been done or initiated. But when you start doing restitution, what you are saying, in other words, is I have done really, really bad, which she needed to be careful as well on how she portrays the restitution. That restitution is that part that was not fully done. However, we need to know that some things that were stolen back then have been returned to many nations. They stole them from many nations, which is also part of restitution. But when we really talk about restitution, we should be paying money, or money in today's terms, for things, for damages done back in those days to all these nations. So in general, I would say on her own personal note, she tried to exclude herself from political platforms, which she successfully did. She made sure she interfered very little with anything political in terms of countries that they've colonized and things like that. However, the key for me was that restitution, which she could have actually been a champion of. Apart from that, I don't know what else she could have done except restitution. And with this in view, I think the new king has a lot of work in his hand, because the world has changed. The world is moving forward at a very fast pace. And based on that, I do think the whole empire itself that existed before can never be the same again.
No, thank you very much. I just want to quickly point out the fact that she ascended the throne in 1952, February 1952. That's when she ascended the throne. In 1957, March 6, 1957, Ghana had the independence. Again, 1957, Ghana has the independence. 1960, a lot of countries had their independence, one of them being Somalia, another British colony. Nigeria, obviously, in 1960. 1961, she also ushered a lot of independence. You're looking at Sierra Leone, you're looking at Cameroon, you're looking at Tanzania. That's another country. In 1962, Uganda. 1963, you have the Republic of Kenya, Malawi in 64, Zambia in 64, 65, Gambia, Botswana in 1966, in 66, Lesotho. Then again in 1968, Mauritius, in 68, a couple of other countries like Swaziland. So to your point there, she really helped push for independence. So I can kind of see that she tried. She came in 52, and in the first 10, 15 years, a lot of countries that, like I've just listed, got independence. So I give her credit for that. Before we talk about reparations, with all the independence, but is she really a saint in that regard?
Now, I would like to make a comment here. For me, I see some of the applause that people have given to the Queen as they don't understand what the game is. They don't understand what the game is. It was becoming expensive for the British Empire for them to occupy people's lands. It was becoming more expensive. Are you understanding?
Yeah.
Because of that, they now decided that, okay, once they can be able to have control of that same country economically, giving them a republic, then they have a central bank, and we can control the central bank. Then we can control the resources in those countries using our companies that we send there to go and do businesses, and then we can steal their resources. Now, how much amount of gold does the British have in their vaults, in their bank? Where did those gold come from? They did not steal those gold from Africa. They did not steal those gold from Asia. In fact, let me tell you, the crown in which the queen was used. I mean, there's a diamond. There's a particular diamond stone on that particular crown which the queen has, and that stone was stolen from India. So I want you to understand, it was a different game. The game was shifting. The game was moving from occupation to something else. The French also got tune of that style model, because the colonizers, the colonizers were discussing, and they said, "Come, it's easy for us. Let them, if they want independence, let them have a sense, in quote, of independence. But we still control the resources. We install those who are in charge, and they are our puppets, and they do our bidding.
And we have our currency on their money anyway. We have the
course,
queen
and then you look at what happened. Look at what happened to Sankara in Burkina Faso. It was the French that formulated his killing, organized his killing. How many countries has the CIA toppled? The CIA of the US and the MI6.
Man, look at what's going on in Ukraine now. Yeah.
Okay, look, you understand me? Yeah. They are actually fighting a war against them, Russia, and they are using Ukraine as the human shield.
Yeah.
So you can look at it.
Yeah. So your opinion, respectfully, is that this is all a game, and we need to look a little bit deeper. We need to think a little bit deeper. And it's important to say this because...
So now the thing there is that, the model changed. You understand me? The style of colonization changed to something better and more profitable for them. And that's just it. Give these people the republics that they need. They have a central bank. We control the central bank. We send our companies to do business, and then we rip off the country. That's what we do. And all the money goes where? To these other countries. Yeah. Simple. Very, very effective, and it's still working today. And that is exactly what Russia is trying to torpedo. And that's what's causing a lot of problem all over the world. That's why the pound is about becoming at par with the dollar, and the euro is below the dollar already. This is really bad. So...
But to push on that, if you don't mind me asking, why is Kenya giving 4 days or 3 to 4 days of public holiday to mourn the queen? I'm trying to understand why a lot of Africans...
Kenya has...
their president just died. I don't think they gave him 4 days to mourn.
Kenya has a
lot of Africans don't understand this.
Kenya has a president that is benefiting from that colonial relationship. Are you understanding me? So it's not something. He belongs to a family that I think is part of the family that actually was handled over Kenya on. I think his father, whether his Asian father or something like that, was part of the freedom fighters and stuff like that fought for independence in Kenya. Are you understanding me?
Yeah.
So he belongs to that group, and of course he has made a lot of money from them, from that relationship, and he will continue to do so. So that is just how it is. And then also, you'll be shocked that people are not aware about that history. Are you understanding me? A lot of people are not aware about the history. So and then also there's this this thing about the African. The African forgives very easily because he has been given the Bible to be able to to teach him how to forgive. You understand me? So the Bible, he was given the Bible. He was taught how to forgive his enemies. But his enemies that have committed sins did not use that Bible to understand that they ought to restitute. Now, talking
back
about
to the point of restitution.
Talking about racism in of course, the Brits, the white Brits. You know who they are. They are not people that like you when you are black, particularly when you are coming into, an institution, a royal institution that they feel that is should be exclusive to white people. Are you understanding me?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they forget that the oldest bones that have been found of a British person in Britain was actually the bones of a black person. Are you understanding me? They forget.
Well, some of these sound rather controversial, though. So I don't want to just say yes, because if we think about like what you were talking about earlier, about maybe something like racism. I mean, racism, for example, in the Brits, there are a lot of blacks, in fact, a lot of Nigerians actually, that built in a way the UK in terms of how they support the economy of the UK. Nigerians in the UK, they're janitors. Nigerians in the UK, they are doing a lot of dirty work, which a lot of whites in Britain actually think they are ahead of themselves. So these are all some of a mixture of truths. There are half truths. There's conspiracy theories, and there's also misinformation. There's some truth to it, some not entirely true. So we also want to be very careful with how we kind of approach that, especially from an African perspective. So I agree with some of it, but also I kind of struggle with some of it. But keep going.
Now, what part are you struggling with? I want to know. Is it the part that actually that the monarchy is actually based on the Freemasons? It was actually built by the Freemasons. Is that what you're trying to tell me, that that's not true?
Well, no, what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of good that the monarchy has done, regardless of how we see it. There's a lot of good.
Like what? Tell me the good that they did.
Independence.
Okay, by giving you
the independence.
Independence. No. You are still thinking like when you're thinking about independence, like when you were taught about independence
in primary school
in primary school. I'm telling you, as if it was a good thing, as if it was a wonderful thing that we achieved. You understand me? As if it was a good thing or a wonderful thing that we achieved. Independence wasn't wonderful. Independence was gotten by blood. Women had to go naked in Aba because of independence, because they wanted independence.
The Aba riots.
Yeah. People were raped, people were killed because they wanted independence. Are you understanding me?
Yeah,
independence was clear occupation.
Though. This is kind of dark. You're making it sound dark.
Independence was clear occupation. But the thing there is that you should understand that the game changed. As this woman came in, the model changed. So they had to now leave others. You understand me? Okay, look at what happened in Guinea. The Guineans were told by the French that if you want independence, you have to pay for the infrastructure we have already built in Guinea. Now they were built. What infrastructure? Rail infrastructure that they built so as to transport Guinean Guinean minerals to the capital, which usually, if you check all the capitals along the western along West Africa, they are all positioned at the coastal areas, and that was done purposefully because they wanted from there they could ship those things out easily. So now they wanted the Guineans to pay for something that they used, that they created, so as to for their own use, so as they could use and loot these countries. That's what they did, and the Guineans said no, and then they crashed the economy of Guinea. What did the Haitians do? The Haitians took their country by force, and what did the Americans do? The French actually labeled that the Haitians were owing them $180 billion or something like that. That they just recently, 20 years ago, finished paying a debt that they did not owe.
Okay.
And you are telling me that independence was wonderful?
We need to separate the French from the British colonialism.
They did the same thing. The French and the British. They did the same thing.
Oh, you're saying they did the same thing.
They did the same thing. Even in that Kenya we're talking about, if you see the number of people that they did massacres, they killed people. Brutal. They came to Africa and they took our own people and used them to fight World War II in a war that we had nothing to do with.
Hold on. It is true the French were brutal, and up to today they are still brutal, because the Cameroon central bank is being controlled by the French to today.
And they're giving them a cut.
Cameroon, not just a Cameroon. All francophone countries,
About the Haiti is also true. When the Haitians rebelled and they chased away the French gathered together with the United States and some countries to make the Haitians pay for all the infrastructures that were built. That debt was just rolled away like some 7 years ago. So recently, the debt was just stopped. Before, they've been paying the French. But there is no record anywhere in the world that the British are being paid for any infrastructure that was laid in any British colony. That's number one. Number two, there is no record anywhere in the world that the central bank of any independent British former colony is being controlled by the British. There's no record anywhere. Unlike the French, there are records. It's just there. Even all their assets is there in France. They have to formally apply to withdraw from their assets. But for the British, it is not so, which is why we need to clearly put that demarcation there. But the only thing we can say is that when you colonize a country and you leave, definitely you still have influences over that country. That's a given, because you kind of make friends and you wanted things to be in place based on your idea. However, these countries, the British have left Nigeria let me take Nigeria for example. They've left Nigeria for a long time now.
1960.
And up till now, we are still messing up our own head. Up till now, our children are still suffering to get common bread on the streets. These are no longer the British problems. These are now the local
Our problem.
Our problem. The only country that the British had influence for a long time is South Africa. And in South Africa's case, it was not really the British, it was the Dutch. But the beautiful thing about it is that the country today is suffering based on the PTSD or psychological drama of colonialism. However, South Africa is like a gold mine for other African countries today. So I'm not saying that colonialism should remain for a long time. Again, these countries are standard for all other African countries because they had a longer stay of the colonial masters. However, that is not good in the real sense of it, but it brought out some good in the country. In other words, the country is fully developed. Unlike the other countries that have been left early in the 60s, most of them are struggling. I'm referring only to the British now. They're struggling economically. And that boils down to the fact that the common African that has been left alone cannot even help himself.
No. Listen. No. Listen, I do not agree. I do not agree with that. I do not agree with that.
No, you have to agree. I'm just saying the point.
You are saying facts, right?
No, he's saying his own facts.
No, I'm not trying to convince you. No. It's not a conviction matter. It's a matter of today, I'm going to give a classical example. Today we have Kemi Adeosun, who almost ran for the British Prime Minister role to contest. She fell. Kemi Adeosun.
Oh, Kemi Adeosun. Okay. Yeah.
I think her last name has changed. She married a British.
Okay.
She contested to be a PM and she fell out in the quarterfinals. I can say today and beat my chest, there is no how Kemi can be anywhere near contesting for power in our local Nigerian country. There's no way. Rather, Kemi will be thinking of how she will put bread on her table and food on her table. In other words, what I'm saying is this. The colonialism is bad in itself. It has caused its damage, but our people are still thinking backward today. They are not, even when they left us to help ourselves, they are still looking confused and morose and fighting ourselves. That is why, even as much as we have come up together as a single country, even if we break into many countries, it is evident that even the many countries that a country like Nigeria may break into, there will still be a lot of infighting and in trouble. Why? It is all about leadership. In other words, as a country that they've left all these African countries, up to today, many of them don't have good leaders
Good
to
leaders.
lead them properly. And you can blame the British for all we share. At this point, I mean, anybody who says British is the cause of Buhari's behavior, I don't know what.
No, honestly, I don't think that's what he was saying.
No,
though.
listen.
I don't think he was saying that. He wasn't saying
No, I want
leadership.
I want to react to what he has said.
Yeah.
Number one,
Yeah.
looking at what I mean has happened and what the British have done, that you would say that probably maybe they are not still responsible for the things that actually occur in these states. And number two, he made a statement saying that those who were colonized longer are better off because they have better infrastructure than those who were colonized, who got independence earlier. I would say now, listen, I want you to understand. Are you telling me that somebody who oppresses you for short time and that you are disadvantaged to somebody who oppressed you for long and who actually own the land? Let me make you understand what's going on in South Africa. South Africa, black people don't own the land in South Africa. In South Africa, black people do not own the land. Even after apartheid and everything, black people do not own land. People are coming to Nigeria to come and buy land. Buy land in Abuja, buy land in Lagos. And you think that it's easy like that. Go to South Africa and see whether you can buy land. You cannot buy land. You cannot buy land. And who created that system? It's actually the Boers. It's actually the white people. It's actually the British and the Dutch. They are the ones that did that. The Afrikaans people, they are the ones that did that. So you can't tell me that there's something sweet about colonialism in any form. Now, let me tell you, our history was erased. I read something recently about when the British came over to Benin, this Benin that we have, not Benin Republic, Benin in Nigeria, that they saw an organized city and that there was absolutely no crime in the extent that people did not even have doors in their houses and they had proper houses. They had streets. And they came, invaded the place, destroyed people's history, took artifacts away. Why do you think that they were focused on taking artifacts? It was erasing the history of the people. So and they will now tell you, hold on, wait. They will now tell you exactly what they want you to hear. That was what they did. Secondly, so about these people, I mean, those who stayed longer or not. No, that to me, that's not right. That's not correct. Because we have other countries who have actually done well. Countries like Namibia, yes, countries like Namibia and countries like Botswana, they have actually done well. So I wouldn't say that. So also, secondly, when we now look at the other issue, the other part I talked about, I want you to like go through time and understand what I'm saying. When the British were here, they acted like the big man. You understand? They had the big man mentality. When they are in quote in the jungle, they behave differently than when they are in their countries. They had the big man mentality. And what is the big man mentality? I saw pictures in which Nigerian boys
were carrying white colonists
on his shoulder.
Yeah.
On his shoulder. Are you understanding me? So our people saw that as what leadership should be. And that is exactly what we are replicating now. So that was what they did. They messed up with our psyche. They installed their own leaders, the one they wanted as traditional leaders in Nigeria.
Yeah, people that favored them.
What leadership should be. Corrupted what leadership should be. So look at it. You have somebody who is coming to you. Now the person conquers you militarily and then changes the way your life goes and then makes himself like a lord of all. Why do you think politicians behave the way they behave in Africa? They behave the way the British and the French and others behaved. That's how they do.
Yeah.
Look at the Chinese. They come in here with their companies and they oppress our people. Are you understanding me? But when they go to China, they don't do that to their own people. That's not the way they work. Why? Because that is how colonialists behave. And then the problem with us is that we saw that as a model for leadership, and then in which they favored some part of Nigeria over some part of other parts of I would say the north over the south, and then they not believe that Nigeria was handed over to them by the British. So because of that, we still have problems in Nigeria because some people feel entitled to something that they should not feel entitled to.
Yeah.
Just to correct your notion, nobody said colonialism was a good thing. You said I said so. Nobody said so.
No, I did. If I said so, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
You did not really get where the focus for where I was saying. But I will just summarize and say India was equally colonized. Today, India is a superpower. India has been able to refresh themselves and rejig themselves. Why?
Yes.
Because they learned certain things even from colonialism. So to use Africa as a colonialism yardstick is probably not the
best.
The best. That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
India rejig themselves, and if you go to India today, the children are taught in school in Punjabi and their languages, Hindi, because they refresh themselves. But what did we do? We decided not to rejig ourselves, and anybody who doesn't rejig ourselves after any experience remain.
What do you mean rejig or redeem? What do you mean redeem?
I agree with you on this.
Rejig yourself.
Rejig. You create your own reality and you create your your procedure in which you want to get to that reality.
That is what African countries did not do.
African countries are not yet done.
You cannot blame colonialism for that. That's where I'm going. You cannot blame colonialism for you not trying to step up yourself. We have remained in a block state.
Yeah, and a lot of the things he was talking about actually is you're talking about 19th century, early 20th century, 17th century, before the Queen ascended the throne. So this is somebody who came in and is like, oh wow, the world is bad, everything is bad. So he's right on some of the things he was saying about the Aba riot and all that. That was before the Queen ascended. And to her, when she ascended, in my mind, I'm like, she came over and she's like, okay, what do we have to do? Let's try and start cleaning this mess. And the mess was being cleaned by giving the countries back what they wanted, which was independence. The issue about them changing their business model, whereby we can be afar, we can still control. That's, maybe that's a French model, which I don't think that's the topic of this conversation. But overall, I personally believe that, the Queen, what she stood for and what she stands for and the good the world has seen. Yes, colonialism is bad. Yes, things bad happened. Other than the comments about Black Nigerians are carrying a white colonial master or whatever, and that might have impacted the way we thought about leadership, because then we start worshiping our leaders, we start kissing the ground they walk on. But again, the comment about rejigging, I think that takes us, basically, we can fix that. So it all boils down to leadership. How can we fix our leadership? And how can, because there are examples like Botswana, there are examples like South Africa, even examples like India. Now, granted, the British also colonized the Indian, and there's a lot of things that happened back in India. But today, India is successful. So India is successful. We can turn a leaf in Nigeria, and we can try and rejig ourselves and try and just, relearn and try and be better. So with that, I just really want to thank my guests here. Thank you guys. We pray for a better Nigeria. And we also pray, like we started out this conversation, for the people of the Brits, just as they've lost their queen, God should just give them the grace and the fortitude to be able to bear it. Especially, we pray for those that are in members of the monarchy. Just over the next couple of days and weeks, there'll be a lot of changes. The world will change like we know it, and the question is the world ready for this? And as Nigerians, as we look towards 2023 and the election, we really pray that we're able to rejig ourselves and make Nigeria better. So with that, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your time. So what do you guys think? Can you let me know what you think by tweeting us at Lost Lagosians on Twitter? You can also send us an email at lostlagosians@gmail.com. And for those on YouTube, you're welcome to sort of comment. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts about colonialism? I think this conversation today shed some light on some of the ills of colonialism. Overall, like we discussed, most of it happened before the Queen came into power. She led an effort to provide independence to the nations that were former colonies of the British Empire. So thank you for being here. Really, really appreciate it. And a special thanks to all our guests for coming on air today. Until next time, a Koni Bajel. Thanks. Bye.